your astrologer, back with the messages for the week of March 3rd, which is a big retrograde week because we have Venus retrograde and we have Mercury in its pre-shadow for its retrograde, which follows next week's eventful, emotional full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo, which of course Mercury rules over. So these next several weeks, you want to make sure you click on that subscribe button because you want to follow me and you want to listen closely to all the details and all the information that I'm going to be describing, because it is a very unusual 6 weeks that's coming up where everything's changing and you just want to be prepared, and you definitely want to know where this is happening in your chart. So you might want to go out to my website, maraleeburnett.com. There you can become a member and have access to all the written material that I've already created through the month of May. So of course the March horoscope is out. If you remember, that's already been emailed to you. In that, there is also a new moon article, a full moon article, which of course are the eclipses. And I do include worksheets for the new moons as well to help you in setting your intentions. However, my caveat is the intention that you set around an eclipse have to be about letting things go, being guided to your path. It's not just a simple set new moon intentions. You have to show up and do the work too. So something you might want to consider doing a reading with me. And there is a special pricing out there on my website as well. So let's break it all down. We're going to start with Monday, and this is posting late because for whatever reason, I could not get this to record. I am hopeful I will get through this recording because Mercury was at 29 degrees yesterday on top of my Saturn, and it was just like no go. Wasn't going to happen. I couldn't get it done. I couldn't get it posted. Nothing was working. And at that point, the universe says, just let it go. Don't keep fighting, especially over these next 6 weeks, to force something to happen that for whatever reason is not supposed to be happening. So I didn't. And so I'm posting this very late, but obviously it's still Monday and this information is still very applicable. So as we start on Monday in this lovely Astro Gold software program, you will see that Mercury, my favorite friend, is now in the sign of Aries. So you have to be careful when Mercury's in Aries, which it will be now for several weeks because it's going to retrograde here as well. It's going to make it forward to 10 degrees, about where Venus is starting her retrograde. Again, this is very rare. Exact same path, crossing paths, part of an eclipse. Like there's so much going on, and there's just so much that we have to pay attention to in the details. But Mercury's in Aries, so is Venus, of course, and Aries rules the self. It's the first house, the first sign. It is where we experience new beginnings, right? Related to ourself. This is the rising sign, how we present ourselves to other people, how other people see us. And it's where we learn to be our individual self, right? Who I am is Aries. And it's very strong. It's very passionate. It's a fighter, right? Ruled by Aries, the god of war. We have something worth fighting for. And we're going through the process of figuring out just exactly what that is. And so we'll be tested. And we have to remember an angry response isn't the only response. In fact, when we're in control of our anger, we're stronger than when we just lash out. Venus, of course, is love and beauty and money, right? All things that we value are valuables that we use the money to buy, right? So as Venus has started her retrograde, which was on the 1st, anything that we're trying to force forward or through that's related to those topics I just mentioned won't go smoothly. So the advice I keep giving everybody that I'm working with or talking with is this is the time over these next 6 weeks to review, to make plans that are very fluid. Nothing should be overly structured. You shouldn't be attached to any kind of outcomes, because I guarantee you, you will get mad. You will get angry because things are not going as expected. And I guarantee you they won't. And I know this because I live it early. As soon as the pre-shadow period starts, I am very energy sensitive. Obviously, that's why I do this work in my tarot cards. And I start feeling what the experience for the collective is going to be. And I have had to laugh at myself so many times because exactly as predicted, everything I was doing required an extra step, times 3, right? And I just, again, was not going to get frustrated, have just let these things happen. And so that's what we're beginning to see now, that Mercury's in this pre-shadow, which means preview of where it's going to review, right? As it turns retrograde on the 14th. And Venus has already started the review period. And keep in mind, this review period starts in Aries, but it concludes in Pisces. Aries, new beginnings. Pisces, endings. So we will have to figure out what we want, because it's in Aries. What are we willing to fight for? What are we passionate about? What are we going to speak up about? And then we're going to have to go back with the energy when it enters into Pisces and dissolve things. We have to create better boundaries. And once we do that, then we'll be ready to let something go and then move forward with something that we want for just ourselves. Now, the last time you had Venus in this sign doing this retrograde was 2017. Then you go 8 years before that, and it's 2009. So you can look at those 8-year periods and see if there is any particular pattern that's showing up for you, so you know what work you need to do. You know what didn't work the last time Venus was traveling through this space and retrograde. So it's a time of learning and then breaking patterns and creating new ones. Now, Venus, of course, is women, so there may be a time where you're connecting with women more. Venus in Aries is like a woman who's an entrepreneur, a woman who's strong and independent, a woman who's self-sufficient. So those women may make a name for themselves during this time. Women who maybe were important in the past that we haven't heard or seen from in the last 8 years may suddenly splash back onto the stage. So we're in very intriguing times if we can let ourselves relax enough to see the bigger picture and not be so narrow-minded and so worried about what we're experiencing that we aren't seeing all of it, how it all fits in together. So that is obviously an important piece of information as we start this week. Also, you'll see that we'll have a difficult conversation between the moon and Pluto today. So moon, our emotions, our financial security. The markets may be up and down, a little crazy today, especially with the Bitcoin, right? Because of Pluto in Aquarius, very much a Bitcoin energy. So there could be something shifting and changing there. And we also are still in the energy of Jupiter squaring the sun. This is all the ego stuff that we're seeing, that we saw here in the US, that we're seeing in Europe, literally is ego wars and fights. So instead of digging in, let the energy help you figure out a solution that requires changes on both sides, right? It's an agreement. It's communication. It's Gemini. And Jupiter is benefic, right? So if you can learn how to communicate fairly with one another, then real change can happen and real solutions can come through. So I'm going to run through this real quickly, where this work is showing up for you for the Venus retrograde, and know that right behind Venus retrograde, right, will be Mercury. So you have two things. So I like to say the planets are visitors in our houses. So you have two people coming into your house, one strong woman, financially secure, and you and she are reconnecting and taking a look at how to refurbish your home, for instance. Then Mercury comes in. Mercury is somebody who's younger, independent, vocal, has a lot of opinions, and it too is joining in with Venus. So you have these two friends who are helping you review where you're at, where you want to go. They have ideas to share with you, and you need to be open to working with them, right? Reviewing the past, reviewing the choices you've been making. And so since Mercury and Venus are following the same path, then the messages that I'm about to give you about where and what could happen apply to both planets. So this, again, very unique, very interesting. And at 9 degrees of Aries is where the eclipse will happen. So your house, where whatever is going on, it's a big deal. There's things you have to release. There's things you have to let go of. Now, if you're already on your path, right? If you've been listening to the energy, if you've been doing what you're supposed to be doing, then you just may be being guided, right, to the next step, to taking the next level. It's those of us who are ignoring the signs, who are just doing the same thing we always do, we're sticking our head in the sand, can have a big rude awakening. And of course, if you have planets sitting at this 9-10 degrees, those are about to be awakened in some way, depending on the angle. Now, I do have a worksheet out there. It's really inexpensive. Like, I think it's $11.11 to have me fill it out for you. And that will tell you a little bit of astrology that could be very helpful. If you can't afford to do a full reading, order the worksheet from me and I'll fill it out, and you get a mini astrology workbook, all the dates for these events that I'm talking about right now, and all the new moons, all the full moons, all the planet retrogrades. I give you the whole year at a high level so you can be prepared. It's a very mercurial thing. Let's be prepared for the rest of this year, because this next 6 weeks are going to be interesting. We want to be prepared. All right. So let's run through this really quickly about this house. Now, I will also caution you that because this starts in Aries but goes back to Pisces, there may be 2 houses that you are having work done in and on. So again, it's just really helpful if you know your chart and know what is going to change when this energy moves from Aries to Pisces. I've already described how my work as far as a collective goes, but if a different house is impacted, you want to listen to what I'm about to describe for the sign before yours and yours. And it's still not a guarantee, but it will maybe shed some light. And maybe you've already been experiencing these things, and what I'm about to say to you makes perfect sense. So let's run it down, starting with, of course, Aries, which this is your first house, right? It's the house that represents the self, all the things that I discussed at the top of this video was about you. Who are you? How do you identify? How's your temper been? How frustrated are you getting? How's your money, right? And most importantly, though, how do you present yourself to the world, to other people? And is there something that you want to change? Always remember, during Venus retrograde, we don't do any permanent changes beauty-wise, right? It's not the time for plastic surgery. It's not the time for dramatic changes in our looks unless they can easily be undone, right? Like, so I've highlighted and lightened my hair, but I could undo it if I didn't like it. That's not permanent. But anything that we do, it's permanent in nature. So like you, Aries, your physical appearance, it won't go as expected, especially because we have Mercury retrograde at the same time. So experiment, play. That's the other theme of this energy. Experiment. Don't be attached to the outcome, and then that's okay. But it's a time of reinventing yourself. And you've got the next 6 weeks to decide what that new you is going to be like. All right, then we are moving on to Taurus. Taurus, this is your 12th house. So the 12th house is an interesting one as far as having retrogrades in your subconscious mind, right? These are your dreams. These are things that are hidden from you. So when you have planets go in there and start messing around, your dreams can be really interesting. So pay attention to them, journal them. They can give you information. Anything that was hidden from you, like when you think about Pisces energy, 12th house, it's beneath the ocean. When these planets come in and stir things up, right? Whatever's from at the bottom gets risen to the top. And again, that's so you can see it and acknowledge it and release it. So that is the work that you have. So any subconscious fears that you have attached to money, for instance, those need to be dealt with. So when we're dealing with 12th house, it's a great time to do psychological work, hypnosis work, which of course I have lots out there for you to try for free. It's time to let some things go. Are you afraid of love? Well, it's time to do the work. All right, let's move on to Gemini. So Gemini, this happens for you in your 11th house, right? So 11th house is your friend groups. I always like the sign of Gemini because it looks like the number 11. And the 11 is a master number, right? It's light that comes into us that helps us manifest. So in the 11th house, though, it's your friends, it's your networking groups. It can be a benefactor. I like to call this the fairy godparent house. So this is a time where you may be reconnecting with mentors from the past. You may reconnect with friends from the past, and you have something to discover together. And now it's a good time for reconnecting with friends, right? This isn't necessarily the best time to reconnect with a friend with benefits, but it could be possible. However, it won't go anywhere, so don't get attached to the outcome. But it is a really good time to reconnect work-wise, especially with women, friends from your childhood. And they will help you uncover something important about your future, about your purpose. So it's a great way to use this energy. Then we have the sign of Cancer. Cancers for you, this is in your 10th house. This is about your career, your status, and your reputation. How you shine in the world, right? When you're on top of the world. Well, there's something about the work you do that maybe isn't satisfying anymore. Maybe you don't have enough of a leadership role. Maybe you're hiding away and not taking on a leadership role, right? This is definitely something about changing your current career path. And so you're meant to spend the next 6 weeks making changes, not quitting your job today and then having a heck of a time trying to find a new one over the next 6 weeks, but doing all the research, tweaking your resume, right? Getting all the resume writing tips, getting research done into the companies. Like, this is the time to do the research. And then when we're at that April 12th time, that full moon in Sagittarius, and we're ready to move things forward and it's squaring your sign, then you're ready to make a big change. All right, then we have Leos, and Leos, this is in your 9th house. So 9th house is foreign people, it's foreign places, it's our connection to spirit, because this is ruled by Jupiter, it's growth and expansion, and it is where we connect with, again, a spiritual guide of some kind. So it can be far away travel. So you might be reconnecting with somebody from far away, right? That you haven't been spending as much time with. And so you have this fun 6-week period where you can really dive deep with each other. Or it's a perfect time to take a course of some kind that's spiritual in nature, or maybe you wanted to learn a foreign language, right? There's positive things we can do with retrogrades, but just know that when Mercury is retrograde, learning new things can be slightly challenging. So if that is already a challenge for you, I don't recommend it, but it's a perfect time to go read books about faraway places or start studying somewhere that maybe you want to move to. You're energy, of course, a fire sign is in alignment with whatever's going on. So it can be very supportive doing this review work on moving you forward once the energy of the eclipses is complete. All right. Then we have Virgos, and Virgo, this is happening for you in your 8th house. So this is a house of rebirth and transformation. You also have the south node going through your sign, and of course, you're going to have the lunar eclipse there. So if you have planets at these late degrees, 28, right, 27, 29, as far back, 25, depends on you and how sensitive you are, right? But there's a big letting go, a big release of something. Now, Virgo can be we're letting go of control. We're letting control of our health, right? This is Virgo energy, which is, think about natural healing. But it's really all the details. Having to make everything perfect. That's Virgo energy. And we're learning to let our perfectionism go when we have the South Node go through Virgo. So you have that letting go. Then you have an 8th house, which is all about rebirth and transformation going on. There's some significant changes that you need to make, Virgos. And you have all this opportunity showing up to help you make the changes. Don't fight them, because it's not worth fighting when it's old patterns that you need to let go of. All right, and Libra, this is in your 7th house. So this is review that has to do with your marriage. It can have to do with just the topic of marriage. It can be commitments in general. It can be business commitments as well. If you have lost connection with your partner, for instance, then Venus and Mercury together are going to help you express your needs, and it will help you communicate what you need to feel loved from your partner, and vice versa. Then your partner can express their needs to you as well. So it's a time of rebuilding your relationship. If your relationship isn't strong, if you've been staying in a relationship that is not good for you, then you may see a relationship come to an end, right? Now, it was 2006, again, last time that you had this eclipse here. So what happened in your relationships? What changed? What do you wish you would have changed but didn't? And now you have an opportunity to revisit that topic. All right. Next, we have Scorpios. And Scorpios, this is the 6th house, right? This is the work that you do. It's whatever is a part of your day-to-day life type of energy. And the question that Venus asks is, do you love it? Is it rewarding you financially? Mercury asks you the same. Are you following through on all the things that you said you would do and make a part of your day-to-day life? If it's not work, it could be your health. It could even be your pets, right? Anything that takes up space in our day-to-day life is now up for review. If it doesn't bring you value, it's time to let it go. And if you like it, but it's just not at the level you want, then it's time to redo it in some way. All right, next we have Sagittarius. Sagittarius, this is the 5th house, right? And again, you're a fire sign like Aries. So this is energy that's very comfortable for you. That's not a challenge. And you love the 5th house because you love fun. You love adventure. You love hobbies, right? You love love, right? And so there may be something, though, that's blocking you from experiencing love that you want. So this may be a time to work on bad habits that you've fallen into. And it also may be a time of really exploring the topic of children. Do you have children? Do you want children? Is there a right time to have them? This could be big discussions. But again, you've got 6 weeks to explore this. Literally, you might go want to explore. Let that unfold naturally. Don't force anything. You're not rushing. There's not a time limit on what you can do. And again, this is fate. North node, south node eclipses are coming up here. So that is going to answer some of your questions as well. All right. Next, we have Capricorn. And Capricorn, for you, this is your fourth house of home and family. So remember how I said you have these two visitors are coming in your house, and they're going to take a look at how your house is set up and make some recommended changes. So it is a good time to do remodeling, for instance, because this is, getting rid of things that don't work for you and then rebuilding stronger. It also can be a time where you are very much focused on your physical body. Your home, the soul's home, is within your physical body. So there could be, a great time to go back to, let's say you had a particular diet or eating plan or exercise plan that worked for you in the past and you've just gotten away from it. Well, now you have all of this help to, again, let go of things that don't serve you, like bad eating habits, stress levels, right? So that you can be a healthier version of yourself going forward. Venus and Mercury will help you with the information that you need to get it done and motivate you at the same time. And then we have Aquarius. So Aquarius, this is your third house. And the third house is your community. It's about communication. It can be about transportation. It could be about your siblings. So there is something about those topics that's ready for review. Maybe you have a sibling that always runs you over, right? And you don't ever speak up for yourself. Well, now you're going to decide to stand up for yourself. Now you might be really drawn to wanting to buy a new car. I just can't tell you how strongly I'm going to discourage you from doing that. However, it's the perfect time to be doing all the research about this new vehicle that you want, since clearly we need a vehicle for transportation. Transportation right now is challenging. As we know, we have Pluto in an air sign, which we need air to fly. And we've been seeing all kinds of craziness, especially here in the US, involving travel. There's always a reason, because changes need to happen. And we don't understand what those changes are until things start coming up and showing up in patterns. We're also seeing crazy fire energy, which makes sense with Mars when it was retrograde, and now Mars is in Cancer homes, right? So fires and homes being threatened, it's still strong, and it will be for several weeks. So again, focus on the things in your community that you value. And if you haven't been communicating with a sibling, well, now might be the time to re-engage. But you have to hold healthy boundaries if you're going to do that. All right. Pisces, we are up next, and you're bringing us all together. And of course, your sign, right? So keep in mind, this is happening in your second house of the money you make from the Aries perspective. So you need to make sure that you're in charge, right? If the money that you make sure that you're doing work that you value. Changes could happen in your job as a result of all of this retrograde energy and eclipses in this area of your chart. Then when it goes into your sign, well, these are changes you need to make for yourself. There's a lot that can happen over the next 6 weeks that both you and Aries signs are going to feel more significantly than other people. So it's the time to remember that you need to always have faith, right? For all of us, Pisces is about having faith. And the face of you, right? When this comes back into Pisces is, a redefining moment. So you have some big changes coming for you over the next 6 weeks, and you just want to be prepared to make sure that your values are aligned with the work you do, the money you spend. All of those things are up for review, and there will be people and there will be situations at work that challenge you for a reason, so you can see what changes you need to make. All right. That is just at least a brief rundown. Of course, it doesn't take into account any of your personal planets that are being impacted at this time, but But I do want you to consider what has been going on, in the last month. What's been changing? Where do you feel held back? Where do you feel like a calling of some kind? Because you're about to see it all unfold. Okay, so that's Monday. That's my rundown, even though Venus started over the weekend, but I just wanted you all to have that. Also, go listen to the tarot card readings, because of course I pulled a tarot card about this Venus retrograde, and there's a message for you there as well. Watch again for your sun, moon, and rising sign so that you get, the big picture of what this retrograde journey will be for you. All right, let's move ahead. And I had mentioned before that the moon was speaking with Pluto. Well, now we've got Mercury connecting with Pluto. So this Tuesday may be where we start to see some agreements about what's going on with Ukraine, right? Agreements about what's going to go on with NATO. Are we going to make a big change in Europe? Anything that does get put into place, though, I don't expect it to be permanent because of the fact that we're in retrograde energy. So even in our own lives, if you're trying to put some contract together, make some commitment, don't trust that it's going to last. We're in retrograde energy. And that Pisces energy, again, that's where all the things that were hidden will come to the surface. So tread lightly, NATO. Ukraine, because nothing is permanent, even though you think you have an agreement. You don't. And it may end up in something very big and explosive by the time we get to that full moon in Sagittarius in April. So tread lightly in your own lives as well on any kind of commitments, because Pluto is, again, things that are hidden beneath the surface, connections hidden beneath the surface. Mercury, communication. So plans. There's a person that's hiding some information that we won't know until later. All right. That is the biggest piece on those two speaking together. The other big event is this Neptune hitting the 29 degree. So you've been following me or you work with me. The 29 degrees is an anaretic degree. I like to say this is where we're tested. So we've had Neptune in Pisces for the past 14 years. I don't know about you, but I've had a hell of a lot of tests going on that I'd like to pass and move on from. I don't want to repeat the things that I've had to learn in the last 14 years. It's not been fun in certain situations for sure. So we have this test, and you may look back on July of last year where Neptune briefly hit 29 degrees before it went retrograde. Well, what's going to be very interesting, what we learn over this next month before Neptune moves into Aries for the first time in our lifetime, hasn't been there since the Civil War, we will revisit from about October through December, because that's when Neptune goes retrograde and will be back and spend its whole retrograde at this anaretic 29 degree. So outer planets like Neptune and Pluto rule over the collective. So what's changing in the collective affects us, and it's our response to that change that then, of course, brings change into our day-to-day lives. So it's not a direct line to you. It is an outer influence that affects you. So when it's at 29 degrees, the outer influence is going to test you. And if you heard me talk about the Pisces preview for the retrograde, I said in this energy, we have to have faith, right? This is faith. That's why it is spirituality. This is something that exists that you cannot see, but you still have to believe in it and the potential for great things to come to you. You also have to be aware of those who will abuse the Pisces energy, right? The darker side of Neptune is deceptive. It is delusional. It is where we will self-medicate instead of healing with help of a professional, right? So there always is the potential for the light and dark to be highlighted, right? So choose your path, the right path. Other people will choose their own path. And then we're going to see how those choices work out. So interesting, this energy. But your faith should be unwavering and trust in the process, right? The North Node is in Pisces. That's where we're headed. We're learning to have more faith. We're learning to connect to our creator, to be creative. We're letting go of that Virgo controlling perfectionism, right? This is water energy where the North Node is. We've got to be in the flow. We've got to be fluid. We can't be stuck and grounded like the earth energy of Virgo right now. We can learn how to balance both, right? I can have good structure, but it doesn't have to be perfect before I share it with others, right? Before I release my creative gifts, my musical gifts, right? All right. So that is what we have to talk about on Tuesday, is that Neptune 29 degrees. So start paying attention. Know you have a month of intensity, and then know on March 30th, it's going into Aries, and that's going to create a huge shift in the collective. All right. More on that later. In fact, if you want to know a little bit more historically what's happened when these planets have changed signs, these outer planets, although they've never all changed the sign in the same year like they are now, go watch my 2025 video, and I'll have the link to that down below because I break it all down. What happened historically? What are some examples of things that happened? We had a president who was impeached. We had Civil War. We had World War II. All of these themes are coming up again. Now, do I think war is a little different? Yes. So just keep that in mind. But, there is a fight. There's definitely a fight coming. And one of those things that we're fighting for, right, is our faith, our independence. All right, more on that later. Let's move on to Wednesday. So Wednesday, there's some very helpful energy. So this is when Mercury is speaking in harmony with Pluto. So that information that you needed that seemed like it was hidden and beneath the surface and you couldn't quite grasp certain concepts. Well, when Pluto and Mercury work together, you're thinking more clearly and you're coming across the information that you need to make clear decisions. And then you've got the moon in Gemini. So again, you're thinking, because Mercury rules Gemini, and your intuition moon, they're working together, and Pluto's giving you the power. Right? It's the power you need to do something and be successful doing it. So maybe there'll be some concessions made in the collective, and we'll see the outcome of that show up for us on Wednesday. Then let's move forward to Thursday, to Friday. This is when we are going to see the sun, our success, our ego self, how we're shining in the world, meet up with Mars still down there at 17 degrees of Cancer. It's like, could you move forward, please, Mars? So, Mars isn't happy in the sign of Cancer, but it's much happier at least that it's moving forward. But I always like to say Mars in Cancer is like having, a hothead in your nice, calm, peaceful home that stirs everything up. And when Mars, the warrior, meets with the sun, the ego, right? The egos are really big. But there is, again, a trine is an opportunity that presents itself to you, especially if you have planets here at 17 degrees. And it could be that this review that you did with Mars, well, now you understand the big picture, and there's something that you can achieve as a result of the sun shining light on your Mars retrograde work, which of course started last year and has just recently come to a conclusion. So now we are ready to put that behind us and move forward. All right. Also here on Friday, we're going to see the moon for a portion of the day be in this T-square, which is this red triangle with the nodes of fate. And then, of course, the moon will be joining with the south node, of course, opposing the north node during the lunar eclipse. So there is a clue today of what work is coming up for us with that lunar eclipse, what we're going to have to release. And this might make it easier, right? Something may just tip the scale, something maybe really annoy you, so that you realize hanging on to whatever this particular thing is, it's just not worth it anymore. It's time to let it go. So pay attention, because this pressure, this release of all of this tension, it is helpful if you use it to help you, right? Because we talk about pressure of a volcano. When I look at a T-square, I'm always like, here's the volcano and it's about to explode. So you can have a positive release of energy, or you can get so much under pressure that it just literally explodes and doesn't do so in any way that's helpful. So don't let that be you. All right. That is our Friday. And let me just check my notes. So then as we move forward, you're going to see now that the moon is joining with Mars, and Mars is still speaking in harmony. So now you've got your feelings, right? Because the moon's in its home sign, your intuition are fired up. And the sun adds even more fire in a water sign. So this could be a very big emotional day. And maybe that's a result of whatever the explosion was on Friday in your personal life or in the world. Then this day, feels very emotional. But do positive things with your feelings, right? Write, literally. Create, write music. Do something helpful, be of service to other people. All those are really good positive ways to use this emotional, intense energy that we have on Saturday. All right. And as we wrap up the week, we're still seeing the moon in its home sign now, because the moon moves every 2.5 days. It is speaking in harmony with those nodes. So here's what had to change. Here's what benefited you as a result of making the changes. And still the moon is slowly making its way to Virgo, where it will have again that full moon lunar eclipse moment, which is full lunar because of the fact of how close it will be to the south node. Also, keep in mind on Sunday, this is when Venus is going to cross over the eclipse point. So she already marched forward here, not this last Thursday, Friday, but the Thursday, Friday before, and gave you a preview of her retrograde work, of your eclipse work. There may be something very subtle, but it'll come up again to make sure you don't miss it now. So pay attention on Sunday. Write down the littlest things that stand out to you, so that, again, you're aware and prepared for what the eclipse on March 29th is going to be about. Okay, so that's this week. You're going to notice, of course, next week that you'll have Mercury cross over the eclipse point as well. So next week on Wednesday, Mercury will be at that 9 degrees, and literally the eclipse is happening at exactly 9 degrees. That's pretty rare. 9-degree eclipse in a 9-year. There is a big ending of some kind. I'm guessing it's a leader, a champion of some kind. If we're still with the Pope, maybe that's part of this, because of course he's a spiritual leader. So there is a letting go of somebody in a leadership role as a collective, right? Is one of my, predictions that could come as a result of this. Again, you can go back and look at 2006 for some ideas what was going on historically during that time frame, or go watch my video and you can read or see it there. But again, pay attention in your own life to what's showing up Wednesday, as here comes Mercury going, I got the information you need, so you know what you need to change during this eclipse cycle. So that happens on Wednesday. And then we also on Wednesday are going to have this big Saturn and Sun connection. So there'll be lots to come and talk about next week. And of course, as we get to Friday and the full moon lunar eclipse, all these Pisces house, whatever it is in your chart, is lit up. And it's just standing here against karma and the past and saying, in order to get into the light, you have to let these things go. Whatever these things are, whatever this house is. Here's an example that not everything has to be big and dramatic, right? So for me, it's my second house where I have this Virgo energy. And I have been compulsively, which Virgo's very OCD energy. And I have felt the compulsion to let go of anything, especially in my home, that I just don't value. Like I've had a treadmill for years. Great treadmill. Never use it. It's just, I don't like just being on a treadmill. So it's like, but I finally strongly felt it's time to let it go. And so of course I let that go. Cleaning the closets, reorganizing things. Again, just letting go things that don't bring you value anymore. Venus. So it doesn't have to be this huge life-changing event, and it's not happening directly on anything in Virgo, but it is in my Pisces energy. So having free-flowing energy because you have less clutter around you, for instance. So it can be little things, but the little things that we change make space, right? So just a simple way that might show up for you so it doesn't feel too overwhelming. But it is a lot of energy. This eclipse is going to happen with Uranus. And Uranus is the unexpected, the crazy, the lightning bolt that creates change, that's fated. So some things we don't have choices about. Usually these are the events, but our choice is always how we respond to them. So come back next week. I'll do the breakdown of the Virgo house, more details about your sign and the work here, and go do some research. Look at your life in 2006 and 2017. Look at those themes. Spend some time thinking about what you had to learn and do differently. And now do differently. All right, guys. Thank you so much. If there's questions, please put them down below because I love your comments and I love responding. And make sure you watch me daily, right? I post every day on my Facebook, Instagram, TikTok accounts. I get them out to YouTube pretty often, but not always because they don't like it when I post every day. And nobody likes me on YouTube anyway. So watch, like, comment, show up daily, support me, support my work, and go out and get on my website and start reading all of the information of what's coming. Like I said, it's out there so far through May, starting to work on June content too. So I myself want to make sure I'm prepared, so I keep looking forward. And it's just a year that doesn't stop changing. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in. Sorry this is so late. I hope you found it very helpful, and we'll talk again next week. Take care, everybody. Be sure and check out your weekly tarot card messages as well. Those, along with this astro lesson, are going to give you the big picture. Thanks again for tuning in. Talk to you next week.